In this video we're going to look at nil-nil bookie refunds. Now we can look at a basic trade of a better score of 1-1 and after a goal lay 1-1 in Betfair for a win or lose profit providing the odds drop. Now we could bet with the bookie, and if the game ended 0-0 we would get our bookie bet stake back, and we could still then lay 1-1 after a goal and hopefully make a profit if the odds have dropped. Now an alternative to doing that is to bet 1-1 just in Betfair, bet 0-0 with a small stake within Betfair to recover our bet stake if the game ended 0-0, and then once again, if after a goal, lay 0-0 to an overall profit which covers our losing small stake on 0-0. So this video is to see which is cheaper, bet with the bookie and get the refund if it ends 0-0, or do the whole thing within Betfair, bet 1-1, small stake on 0-0 and lay 1-1 after a goal is scored. Now the game we'll be looking at is tonight's game with Real Madrid and Barcelona, the semi-final of the Champions League, 27th of April 2011. So let's look at the odds. Now here we are in my Hedge sheet, and we've got the bookie set up here and the Betfair set up here. Now the odds available with one bookie were for 1-1 was bet odds of 6. So if we bet with that bookie at odds of 6 and the game ends 0-0, we would get our stake, our £27 stake in this example, refunded. Now in order to make a profit we'd need to then bet below odds of 6. So we might, in this example you can see here, we need to hit odds of 5.9 after a goal to get into a profit of 46 pence. So at 5.9 we would lay £27.46 and make a win or lose profit of 46 pence. Now if we look in Betfair, the 1-1 odds in Betfair are 7.4 to bet, and the 0-0 odds are around 10 at the moment. We'll just look at Betfair now. Now here we are in correct score. You can see the odds of 0-0 there are almost 10 to bet, 10 to lay actually, and 1-1 down there is bet odds at 7.4. So if we were able to bet at 7.4 on 1-1 and then put a small bet on just at 10 for the sake of convenience for this video, we will be able to win back our stake that we had on 1-1, and we would break even if the game ended 0-0. So have a look at those in the sheet. So that is our £27 bet on 1-1, and if we place £3 at odds of 10, that is 9 to 1, we would win back £27 if the game ended 0-0. So that is our insurance bet on 0-0 there. Now if I just remove that, you'll see that if we bet at 7.4 we would then break even if we laid at 7.4, just like we would there. If we bet at 6 we would break even if we laid at 6. But if we put our insurance bet back in of £3, we need to get down to odds of 6.6 to get into profit of 27 pence. So if we laid £30.27 at 6.6, we would have a win or lose profit of 27p. Now we can now compare the two. If we'd bet with the bookie £27, we would have our 0-0 insurance. If the game ended 0-0 we would get a refund of that stake, and we would need odds of 5.9 to get into profit after a goal. Whereas if we just bet in Betfair and use a small bet on the 0-0 score, we only need the odds to drop down to 6.6 before we get into profit. And you can see that 6.6 is quite a bit higher than 5.9. So it actually works out cheaper to bet within Betfair on the 1-1 score and place a small bet on 0-0. You can see also that the odds of 6.6 are above what the bookie odds were before the kick-off of only 6. So even though we're not worried about any commission within this demonstration, you can see that the odds required after a goal are higher than the bookies ever offer in the first place. Now this sheet, if I don't put the odds in there, this sheet treats that as a losing bet, so after one goal that would be a loser. So that is deducted off this calculation before we get to that position there at 6.6. If I remove it, you see it's not deducted, and we would have actually hit profit without it at 7.2, odds of 7.2. So put it back in and we hit profit at 6.6. So the next time you consider having a bet with a bookie to take advantage of his 0-0 refund, you might consider that it is actually cheaper to just do your trade wholly within Betfair.